behavior in front of the whole Kong to gradually smaller Kong pieces hidden in a brick wall or similar, and then eventually having to locate the Kong pieces with the scent when they are placed in small tubes like this. Somewhere along this progression you will need to consider some kind of scent hygiene, because the last thing we want the dog to understand is that it should indicate the scent of the handler. And that is not difficult to achieve, because the handler is a very significant person in the dog's life. So the scent of the handler can overshadow many other scents that we wish the dog to associate with a reinforcement. So somewhere from going from the whole Kong to gradually smaller Kong pieces and ending up with Kong pieces in the tube, you need to switch and start handling the Kong pieces in tubes with a tweezer. So the handler's scent is not on the Kong piece. If there's scent from other people, that's not a big issue, but it should not be any scent from the dog handler on the tube or on the Kong piece. So by far the best is if you can use an assistant who guards the Kong and in the beginning flips it when the dog performs the indication behavior. But if for some reason you don't have any colleagues or friends and have no plans to get colleagues or friends either, you can manage on your own if you have a leash. So what you do then is that you take the dog on leash, put the Kong on the brick wall, and then you restrict the dog if it tries to take the Kong. Chip. So this will help you, but it's important that you, as quick as possible, try to gradually decrease your leash tension, because otherwise this will become the cue for the dog to perform the indication behavior. Chip. And then you have created a cue that you a little bit later want to get rid of. And then it is easier to get rid of that cue if you haven't rewarded it for many repetitions. So if you do it like this, please try to quickly get rid of the cue that you stop the dog with the leash. One of the advantages of using the whole Kong to teach the indication is that this is the primary reinforcer for the dog. So it's very easy for the dog to keep the focus on the Kong compared to any other object or article that has no value to the dog. But at some point we will need to start rewarding the dog with another toy. And then it's good if we can keep the reward placement the same. So when I now will reward the dog with another ball, I try to hit this Kong with the other ball. So the dog expects that the reward will be delivered by the Kong, the target. And to start with, it's easier for the dog if we place the Kong high, if we have the sit indication, and low if we have the down indication. And your task as a dog handler now is to try to reinforce the dog when you're standing behind it. Because we don't want to build you or your actions into the indication. And this is easiest to avoid if you're standing behind the dog when rewarding. And at this point, you don't need to consider if the dog sits too far away from the Kong. Just keep an eye so that it doesn't come too close and touch the Kong, unless that is what you want. If it sits 1 meter away, doesn't matter at this point, because in the next steps, the dog will have to locate the Kong, first with its eyes and then with its nose, and then the dog will always come too close. What you want to avoid is to reinforce the dog for shuffling backwards. You will see, I think we can get this dog to do that. So if I now wait with rewarding, he will perform something else. You see he's starting to shuffle backwards, and this is not something we want to reinforce. So then we just say, no, come, come. And let him start all over. And then we can reward the behavior we want. As you decrease the size of the Kong pieces, remember the reward placement. So if the dog indicates, try to hit the location of the Kong piece with the other toy. Oh, duktig grabb. So when searching for the whole Kong, what you want to communicate to the dog is that if you sit and stare, you will get the reinforcement. If you don't, you will not. And then it's up to you to be disciplined. So if I now tell him to search, and he finds the Kong and does the indication behavior and then look back, then I need to communicate to him that no, this will not be reinforced. And it is easier for him to understand that if I say, no, come, in the moment, the very moment when he turns back to me or faces any other direction than the target. Now he did meet my criteria, so then I reinforce. Once again, he met my criteria, and the criteria I use here is that the dog's nose should be pointing at the location that is within a 20 centimeter radius of the Kong. If you want it to be within 10 or 5, you use that criteria instead. Sooner or later, the dog will not meet your criteria. And then it's important that you have them clear in your mind so that you can immediately tell the dog that no, now you lost the opportunity to be reinforced. Come. So there he did not meet the criteria. And I relocate target and try again. Come. There he did not meet the criteria, so I relocate the target and make this a habit to relocate the target after every repetition, whether you reinforce the behavior or not. Come. Come. Because if you don't relocate the target, then you lose control over what it is you're reinforcing, because it's a high chance it's dog saliva or other things on that location. Or the dog may remember where the target was. And then you don't get the chance to teach the dog the skill we want it to learn, and that is to indicate after trying to locate the target. Then it just turns into an exercise where the dog goes back to where it remembers and sit. Come. So now we have 3 failures in a row. And then it's really ineffective to continue training like this. So then we just go one step back to the bigger Kong piece that we know worked. Do a couple of repetitions there and then try with this size again.